Hello, everyone, and good morning. Or evening, if it is for you. But welcome to another Ride Brunch. Before everybody introduces themselves, there's just a couple things that we want to go over. First of all, it's Pride Month. So as a reminder, all donations this month on Variant Roles go toward Trans Lifeline, which is a 501c3 organization that provides support for our trans siblings in the LGBTQIA plus community. If you're able to donate something, that would be wonderful. Bits, whatever it is, there's also a link down below. And at the end of the month, then all of that money will go to Trans Lifeline, and that's wonderful. We have a lot of like Pride community games that are happening on Pride Brunch will be on Saturdays, and on Tuesday evenings we also have a awesome little Pride slot for various one shots, which we did last week. Matthew ran an amazing wig heist, which was so much fun. So keep an eye on the Variant Roles Twitter account for that. And introductions. I'm Emma, and I use she, her pronouns. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Alexis for running tech today, and also to both Knox and Alexis for creating this amazing overlay, and also just to Dan and Variant Roles for giving us the space to do this. So I will toss this over to all of our wonderful guests. Why don't we actually go ahead and start with Knox?
Hi, I'm Knox. My pronouns are she, her. You can find me on the internet at NoxNoctua. What else do you want me to say?
Why don't everybody tell us what their favorite brunch food item is, or drink item, either?
Brunch and breakfast foods are hard for me because I have a strong sweet tooth, but I don't care for sweet breakfast foods. So it's like I always have to, like, if I'm going to get pancakes, I got to get bacon. If I'm going to have like a breakfast sandwich, I need like some sweet sausages on the side or some shit. But my absolute number one thing I'm probably always getting at a breakfast or brunch thing is Bloody Mary. And for all you Bloody Mary fans out there, vodka. Basic. Get beyond basic. Level up your Bloody Marys with some smoky scotch or some sort of smoked infusion. Or tequila. Tequila also is great. And yeah, that's it.
Man, Knox coming in real hot for brunch. We could just go in a little loop-de-loop. So Matthew.
That's me. Hi, I am Matthew Foreman. I am at Matthew W. Foreman on Twitter. Yep. Hi, how are you? And I guess my favorite brunch thing. So my favorite brunch combo is chicken and waffles. And then to drink, I like, I love a Bloody Mary now because my good friend Alexis makes really good Bloody Marys. And that's me. That's my whole experience. That's all I have. Hi. Bye.
Thanks, Matthew. Shelby.
Hi, I'm Shelby. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm usually not awake for brunch, but if I am, I probably have maybe just a breakfast burger. So it's like a burger with a fried egg on it. And just, yeah, that's pretty much me. Just me and that burger.
Is that going to be the name of your autobiography?
It should be. It should be.
And all the way up to Cole.
Hi, I'm Cole. You can find me on Twitter at Cole Moriel. My favorite brunch thing, I think, is just coffee. I'm like 90% coffee at this point. I kind of live on it because, when you stay up till like 3 a.m. drawing and then you need to be up the next morning and you regret everything. So, yeah, that's me. Oh, my pronouns are she, they.
Awesome. All right. So thank you. I think that means that we're going to go ahead and start talking. So this Pride Brunch, sometimes we're going to talk about games. Sometimes we're going to talk about other stuff, but it's all about LGBTQIA plus experiences, voices, and journeys. So our first, similar to last week, since it is Pride Month, it makes sense that our first sort of like topic that we will unpack and discuss is what does Pride mean to you? Do you attend Pride? Do you not attend Pride? And whoever would like to jump in on that, you know, this is an informal brunch conversation, but not all at once now.
Yeah, Pride. So I've kind of I kind of mentioned this in chat. I've kind of been questioning for a really long time, kind of in limbo, which is why I usually just use the term queer. But I guess because like it's such a hard thing to figure out, um, especially if you like lump in, you know, any mental health issues, which like we don't have time to unpack that. So like put that under the bed. But it's yeah, I haven't actually attended Pride. Most of the time it's like conveniently scheduled that I'm not around, but I've never felt like I've always felt kind of guilty being in the space, even though like I am queer. I don't know. Just like the not knowing exactly what my label is, I guess kind of makes me feel like I need to back off. And I don't know why, but that's kind of been my experience with it. So,
I think that also is going to very much be connected to what we will be talking about in a little bit about the whole, you know, queer validation and
yeah.
not feeling queer enough,
Mhm.
and not feeling valid in your own journey and experience for sure.
Yeah.
Jump in, folks.
That I shadow that pretty much. I think last year was the first time that I really participated heavily in Pride because it was always oh, you're not enough or you don't count. And so it was very much just like, you know, you drill that in your head with everybody telling you. So there was always a lot of backlash between like, oh, you're just asexual. That doesn't mean anything. And it's like, no, it does. You know, I know now that it's definitely I'm enough, you know, to to experience it all.
100%. I think that there's a lot of erasure when it comes to just the A letter in general and all of the
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
and all of the sort of like orientations and experiences that are connected with that. I think there's a lot of erasure within the community and outside of the community.
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of discourse around ace arrow
Yeah.
people, and I feel like that in and of itself is why they are included, because like if you're not part of the LGBTA community, like it's just, I don't know, the discourse usually just makes me sad.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I was really happy to see. So, my background is I've never been to a Pride before, and this was my first year going to one. And I only went because I volunteered through my work. So it was kind of like safety in numbers and being able to volunteer in advance. I was like, oh, I can kind of feel out what Pride is like. But I last year when Pride happened, I was like, okay, I've moved across the country. I don't have family here. I am out of a long-term relationship. I've only ever been partners that are different gender than me. You know, maybe this is like, hey, bitches, I'm bi, woo, kind of thing. But I remember last year, like, feeling so sensitive about going because I that wasn't like my non-heterosexuality was not anything I ever leaned into and like embraced as something to be proud of. So like last year was the first time I even purchased like bi-colored pins and like a little magnetic bracelet thing with the bi-colors on it. And like I remember even wearing like that bracelet to work. I was petrified. I was like, oh my God, someone's gonna see it, someone's gonna know, someone's gonna say something. But no one saw shit because one, it was so small. But like that's just how like tender I felt about that. So going to Pride this year was a very different experience. It felt really good, but I was really excited to see that they had ace flags and stuff at the Pride. They had even like the little ones, and they had like the big ass ones. So yeah, I was super excited to see that represented there because I know that's like a thing.
Yeah, I feel like just within the last year, it's really become more not accessible. That's not the word I'm looking for. It's become more normalized as opposed to just they're in a small corner in the back sort of thing. It's more like a all encompassing, which is why I'm more, getting active and not as toned down a bit.
So I think it's interesting. I think my perspective on this will say a lot about who Pride is currently for and who has the most space at Pride. So there, I think this is like two parts. So one is the conceptual idea of going to Pride, why I would go, why I wouldn't go, and two, the actual lived experience of going to Pride. So like when you ask me, do I go to Pride? Do I want to go to Pride? The answer is I don't go often, and in the years past when I did go, I didn't enjoy it as much. Mostly the parade here in Chicago because it's a long string of corporations trying to sell me their brand, and that's not Pride to me. That's not Pride to me. However, it had never crossed my mind that I would not as a white cis gay man that that space isn't for me, and that I was not invited to go there conceptually, right? So when I'm asked the question, do you go to Pride? It's definitely an option for me. It's a space that I'm entitled to and can go to at any time I wish, and therefore I have the option not to go because I don't feel like I need to go. That being said, on the second part of that, to be clear, when I do go, there are anxieties associated with body type, interest, being around a lot of incredibly beautiful people, and all sorts of anxieties there. But I think it's interesting to hear people talk about inclusiveness when, in my own experience, that wasn't how I was going to answer the question initially, because I am included. So I think that says a lot about who Pride is currently for and who feels welcome and who takes up space at our Pride events, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and I think that talking about that sort of, I mean, again, that goes back to that concept of like intersectionality and where all of these lines intersect for each individual and what their experiences are of, there's varying levels of oppression, and yet there are some of us who, even within that oppression, still have more privilege than others. And how are we using that privilege or not using that privilege, particularly in spaces like Pride events, or, even just on a day-to-day basis, like how you utilize your privilege, even within the boundaries of oppression, I think is really important. And I think, like, for me, and I said this last week as well, but for me, similarly, like Pride is really about like the history of it. Like I think that understanding Stonewall and being aware of Stonewall's 50th anniversary of Stonewall too, there are now, like you said, Pride is sort of a space for like uh white folks in general, but like particularly like white cis white gay men feeling very comfortable in those spaces. And yet the only reason that we have Pride is because of Black trans women, and queer Black queer women. So I think that remembering that and always honoring that history and making sure that we continue to honor those experiences today is really key and really important. And, buying something from Citibank isn't gonna do that necessarily.
And honestly, even buying things from even a flagship gay organization, which I won't drop names, but there are organizations out there that don't actually do work for gay people, but have gay branding and that are charities.
100%. Yeah, just to drop some tea really quickly, everybody. If you're thinking about supporting, if you're an ally and you're thinking about supporting Pride, or if you're within the community and you're thinking about buying Pride gear, check where that money is going to go. There are a lot of organizations that do make Pride gear, and a portion of that or all of those proceeds go directly to an organization that supports the LGBTQ community. There are also a lot who make Pride gear who don't do anything for us. So do keep that in mind where your money's going. But anyway, why don't we go ahead and just go back to that concept of like queer validation and even just like queer spaces, entering queer spaces. How do you feel when that happens? Do you feel like you don't belong there? And sort of unpacking if you feel validated in your experience now, how did you get there? And did you ever not feel validated in your experience? And maybe, currently you're still sort of unpacking your experience, which is valid, of course, but sometimes it doesn't always feel that way.
Drinks coffee to not talk first.
Okay, I'll talk first about that. Gosh. Yeah, for the longest time, I think I learned the term about asexuality in middle school, like end of middle school, beginning of high school. So I don't even know how long ago that was now. 8, 9 years ago, I think.
It's best not to think about it.
Yeah, right? Oh god, thinking about it now. But yeah, for the longest time I was like, it's as soon as you see that word and you're like, that makes so much sense, that all fits, and you're sort of like you're trying to like work into it. And I had a lot of friends within the queer community already at that time, because we are a small school. I graduated class of 38, so it was like small space. Everybody, like, there was nobody was the same. Everybody was completely different. But it was always just like a lot of times when I was like, oh, this is definitely what I am, and everybody's like, no, you don't know that. You're not sure. Maybe you're just a lesbian and you just don't know it yet. And it's just like, okay, well. But it wasn't until, yeah, just like the last 2 years where it was like, this is for sure me now, and I'm happy about it and I'm proud about it. And it's taken a while to get to where I'm just like, I brush off anybody else that tells me otherwise. I mean, uh, especially family members, except my mom has been really great about it now. She started off kind of like, do you really know? You don't know that yet. But she actually got really, really good with it. And at one point, for a couple of years, I was even questioning like my gender identity, and I was very all over the place. That was college. And she was so supportive of it, and it was great. She was just like when she had introduced me to people, she was like, this is my daughter Shelby, and sometimes she goes by he. And it was just like, oh mom, thank you. Like, she still doesn't get it all the way, but like she tries. And that, like, the familial support has really helped, like, made me feel more valid in myself.
That is so wholesome.
I know.
For real. That is so sweet.
It's like a lot of people, especially in Texas, a lot of people probably don't have that kind of familial support. If your parents are, straight-laced white Christians of the deep South kind of. But it's good that she sort of, I think at this point now she's just sort of like, oh well. Like, it's just like that, it's fine. I think at one point one of my friends had transitioned, and my mom was actually getting pretty good at like switching the pronouns, whereas her own mom wasn't. And so it was I was just happy that, we could bring that sort of comfort. Anyway.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's such an awesome story. I love hearing about people's families' enthusiastic support, because I think this actually got talked about during the last Pride brunch, I think, which was, maybe it was even just in our Discord, guys. I don't know. They're all becoming one, one conversation. But someone mentioned something about how hearing even just like words of support is better than silence, and I think it maybe was about like queer capitalism sort of thing. That even seeing them in the parade, yeah, I mean that's, you don't want corporations and brands and shit commandeering an event like Pride and what it stands for, but that seeing that it all means something of value to some people. So that was like something I hadn't considered, and it's really made me rethink about enthusiastic support versus like just not saying anything. So hearing about people's families that are enthusiastically supporting people is awesome. I mean, like my mom knows that I'm bi. She doesn't make like it's not a problem for her as far as I'm aware. But all during Pride Month, like, Facebook is the way that we connect because I don't live back at home. But no one in my family has posted anything Pride related. And it's like, suddenly I'm like, it would be cool to see my mom post something like I'm an ally or I support whatever, just as a show of like, I don't know. I feel like you put something out on the line when you enthusiastically support someone.
I think today too, like, especially with the internet, I feel like it's easy to scroll past something and be like, oh, I agree with that, and like not say anything about it. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, it's really easy. It's easier to not say anything about it. And I feel like support should be shown, and being vocal about these things is important because today, I feel like especially today, there's a lot of not great things, and every word of support really means a lot. Yeah. Um I had a thought and the train left the station without me.
It's okay. It'll come back.
Oh my God, the amount of times that thought train has taken off and I can see it traveling in the distance. And I'm like, wait, but I was going to be all on that. Okay, that'll come back around at some point. I'll get on the next pickup.
Speaking of supportive parents, though, my friend came out as trans, and her parents were just like so supportive through the whole thing. And just like seeing that, I was like, that just warms my heart. Like, when, you know, I wish everyone could have that experience of not being nervous to say something and be themselves. And so every time I hear a story like that, it just like really makes me happy. In my experience, like my family, a lot of Christians, off the boat Italian Christians, and it's not something that's talked about. It's uh my mom, mm, she's not against it, but she's not like for it. It's just kind of like a neutral
Yeah.
kind of thing, I guess. And she keeps telling me like, "Oh, you just haven't met the right guy yet."
Oh no.
Yeah. And I was like, mm, mm-mm.
Oh, I hate that so much.
Yeah.
About anything at all. It's like, oh, you don't want to have kids because you haven't met the right impregnation station. It's like,
Okay, but like the topic of kids though, it's like no, no, no. I don't want kids because I have -5 energy at any given point in the day. Like, I can't take care of myself half the time. Like, let's just be clear about one thing here. I'm a child with a drinking permit. I take all of my own energy. But
Um,
yeah.
So on the topic of well, just everything really. One thing that I want to touch on, like about queer identity and what we're actually taught. What's interesting and like what's even more insidious about these reactions is they use language that is actually could actually be supportive if correctly constructed and and used correctly, because the truth is our sexualities do come in phases. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about how we initially came into our sexuality, how it's grown since then, how it progresses afterwards. I am a gay man but I am now that was 15 17 years ago when I came out, 16 years ago. I feel differently now than I did then, and for a lot of different ways. Who I'm attracted to has changed dramatically, and I still feel gay, but especially now in these recent like couple years, I feel gay in a very different way. I just feel very different, and my sexuality has come in phases. I feel gay mixed with gay mixed with other things. Let's just put it that way. I don't know. I'll let you know when I figure it out. I don't want to speak to anyone else. Huh?
I feel that so hard.
Right. Yeah. Like I don't know what I am anymore. And so for them to be like, this is just a phase, that is true, but that's not what they mean. What they mean is behave the way I want you to, and I am trying to put you in a box, and that's all there is. But then they use this terminology instead. What they say is this is just a phase. And that actually traps, I think, young gay people, and as they grow older, into believing that their sexuality cannot change, and then they feel even more conflicted, and it fucks them up even more. Like they feel they can't be really gay or really bisexual or really ace if they have like a year or two where they feel differently. Like I felt. I mean, I'll just say it. For like the past like 4 years, I have felt pretty asexual, to be quite frank. But I still think of myself as a gay man. But I still feel the way I approach men feels very differently than it did 6 and 7 years ago, and so I don't know what I am at this point, but I know that it's different. I know that it is a phase and that life changes, and I don't know what I'm going to feel like 10 years from now. There's almost no chance that I will be like circle back around and be like, I think I'm straight. Oh, gotta get a wife and kids and bed down.
Oh my god.
I have to leave now. I'm offended.
Oh my god. No, I resonate with that so hard. Like I remember in high school, um, like I had a crush on my best friend, the most stereotypical, falling for the not gay best friend, like nailed it. Walking cliche. But and then there was a whole lot of mental health things that as a teenager, I didn't know what to do with, and for the longest time, I felt asexual. I was like, this is probably like what I am and what I'll always be. But I'm finding in the last couple years that the lady folk, the femme presenting folk are quite lovely. But I still feel, I guess like that's the term queer is very comfortable, and even the last couple years I feel like I present mostly femme, but I feel very like fluid. And yeah, and just I absolutely agree that, thinking that okay, once you come out, like that's it, like whatever you decide you are, that's it forever. And it's like we're always changing, and so many aspects of your life impact who you are and the people that you're attracted to or not attracted to, and that's okay. I feel like that's a really big thing to realize is whatever you are, whoever you are, that's fine. And that's it. Sending out so many hugs to everybody.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love this whole conversation around like embracing the change. I think it's a really hard thing to learn as an adult, especially because when you're young and you're in school, all the way through your college years, it's like you have to make this hard, concrete decision that then places you in a lane throughout the rest of your life. What even makes that even more challenging is when you're in the rest of your life trying to get out of that lane. Super, like, it's almost impossible. It's that difficult. So it feels very easy to sort of like transpose that way of thinking into other areas of our life, especially around things that have like very clearly defined communities around them, like who you are sexually and romantically attracted to. So yeah, I love thinking about these like discussions.
I think they're important ones to have too, because I feel like it's kind of ties into like kind of what you see in this is probably a little off topic, but like internet spaces where like if someone makes a mistake, then they're oh, they're a bad person because they did this, and it's like, well, what are they doing now? If they're making, if they're trying to make amends, like you're not always going to be one thing, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. I'm sorry, talking in circles. I'm going to drink more of this.
No, I actually feel very much the same way. I feel like one of the things I've learned that has helped me through a lot of things is, and then this really does relate to like sexuality, identity, feelings, mental health, and it's all wrapped up together. But like the way we can perceive time and knowing that this is just what things are like now, and
Mm-hmm.
and so I'll connect it just to the central thing, which is sexual identity and like queerness is like my and this gets it this is a whole other thing, but like my sexuality is my choice. Like, and I know that's like I know that's kind of loaded in like the but my sexuality, at least how I feel, is my choice. Like I make those choices, and it's a journey, and there's a lot of factors and a lot of feelings. But what I would say is, for me at least, is like I know the way I feel and the way I interact is something that is happening now, and like I said, like it will change over time, just as it changed from 6-7 years ago, just as it changed to 10 years ago, and just as it changed from 15 years ago. Part of that journey is my choice, and it's up to me. Like I have an active role to play in my own experience.
I actually like that a lot.
Yeah, but a huge factor of that is time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. You're good. You're so good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everyone here is so valid.
I think. Oh,
No. Go ahead. Go.
Train left the station. I panicked.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Now mine. I'm queer panic right now because I forgot what I was.
Are you panic?
Wait. Okay. Oh, wait, we're talking about validation. Okay, yeah. So, when I was in the other thing, I think is that like, I think sometimes people think that you have to like within the community, you have to pick like this is my letter, and that's it for the rest of my life. And it's like that doesn't even fit with the concept of a spectrum at all. And I know that like when I mean I've known since like first or second grade that I was queer, but like fast forward to like college Emma, and I was trying really hard to find like a space where I fit because I couldn't quite figure it out, and that was like, so I was like, oh, maybe I'm pans. And then of course I had a ton of other people who were like, no, I'm pretty sure you're straight. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I get to decide that, not you. But nonetheless, it made my dating life hell. Um, and as well as my own internal identity struggle hell, because you're trying to figure this out, and yet you have a bunch of people coming back at you saying, no, what you're doing isn't valid, that's not right, you don't know how you feel about you. And that is always really, that makes it even more complicated and more challenging. And now I feel like, yes, I'm I've moved over into like, I think like bisexual makes a lot more sense for me, but really queer is like the identifier, because that's that nice umbrella term that for yourself and sort of for others, but mostly for yourself, it gives you sort of some of that wiggle room space where you're still trying to figure things out. And that's sort of like, well, I like to gender bend sometimes. And I don't know, like sometimes I feel this way and sometimes I feel this way. And like, I would really just like to be in these queer waters and not have to worry about which floaty I'm using.
Oh my God, yes.
I
Yes.
love that. Can we get that on a shirt?
Yes.
So I think, which also sort of takes us over into the idea of like queer culture, and like queer spaces in general. Like, how do you, we can unpack that in whatever level we want, but like, how do you feel about queer spaces? Do you go to any queer spaces, and how do you feel when you get there? Do you feel that you are not valid or welcome in queer spaces, and why? And what are your thoughts on having queer spaces in general? And there's so many different kinds of that. I think we were talking last week about the importance of having like spaces for trans folks only, so that they can have that space for themselves. Having more like lesbian and bi bars would be really cool. And that goes back to what Matt's saying about who owns the space right now, whether it's Pride or the rest of the year, who's really controlling those spaces and who is always welcome in those spaces.
I just want to say a bi bar would be cool as hell.
God, I wish.
Like a bi plus bar for bi and pan pals.
Every bar is a bi bar if you're doing it right.
Oh my gosh, Ace Bakery, yes.
I just saw that too.
Well, I was just gonna say something about that. The gay bars and all of that, they're nice, but a lot of it's very nightlifey and it's very adult theme orientated. And I feel like we need a lot of more, like there needs to be more spaces for the younger folks coming in to their own ideas. That is less I think maybe just coming from the asexual lifestyle, I'm not like a lot of those teams are very like sex heavy in a way. And I feel like we need a lot more places that are just like a nice cafe you can go to in the morning or the afternoon, and it's not as flashing lights and intense. I mean, it's still like a good social space, but
I was trying to find a way to tie in like safer spaces for younger LGBT folk, because I know my high school experience, like I was in a Catholic school and there was quite literally nowhere to go. Like they went on a lesbian witch hunt. They were, my religion teacher sat down a bunch of 14-year-old girls and told all of them that they were going to hell if they were a lesbian. And that I don't even know what I could do about it now, because it was so long ago, but like that's something that's like stuck with me. And that's like, first of all, how do you sit down and tell a bunch of teenagers that what they may or may not be is wrong? Like I don't know. I really feel strongly for the youth, because it's just, yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't great. And yeah.
Yeah, it's no good.
So I hope that today that, kids have a safer space to explore themselves and, know that no matter what, I really do need a shirt that says "I am your mom" now.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
protect LGBT kids.
Yep. Found family's good family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. On the notion of queer spaces, so it is true that like these places are very nightlifey, and like that's really really unfortunate that much space, and that is yeah, it is a whole thing. But like it's so connected to like the way capitalism works, who got there first in terms of money, what's profitable, what's monetizable, and that's why white gay men dominate, because they were able to invisibly, invade those spaces. And that's a whole issue. Like when you go to Boys Town in Chicago, I love going to Boys Town. I feel safe there. But again, white, cis, gay man, able-bodied. There are a few pockets that are not nightlifey, but it is overwhelmingly nightlife oriented or Sunday, fun day oriented. But one of the things that dawned on me is, so like in the notion of queer spaces, and we definitely need more physical spaces, one of the great things that we can do is develop digital spaces like the one we're in right now, which is really terrific in this day and age. We did it. We're here. Come on in. Water's queer. Like it's all done. Like it is part of the battle. It's part of a much larger picture and a problem. But what is good is you can create those spaces. On my own channel, Dice Priority, I have a once a week thing mostly once a week, where I design stuff, and it's very queer themed. It's called Mats of the Sheet, and it's a bit nightlifey with my music and everything, but that's what works for me. But it's a space for everyone. All queer voices are invited, and I try to be as inclusive as possible. But on the notion of like, there's such a dearth in digital content. There's not only is there not a dearth, there is such a vacuum in digital content, and there is such a demand for it. Like Mats in the Machine is commonly, usually overwhelmingly more popular than a lot of our other content. And it's because it speaks to something that wasn't there. There's no other. I don't think there is another queerly specific design D&D show on the planet that I know of anyway, weekly on Twitch. So I would encourage anyone listening and anyone here that if they want an Ace Bakery, unfortunately, starting your own bakery is really fucking hard. But you could have at least one video, one 10-minute video. It doesn't have to be a series. One 10-minute video where you and like maybe one other or three other asexual people bake a cake, and you could put that on YouTube. Go do it. Be the Ace Bakery you wish to see in the world. Or encourage someone to do it that can.
I think that's the great thing I found in this community. I met so many friends. Like there's this interesting, unique, wonderful LGBT D&D community that, I wouldn't have found without Roll20. I stumbled into a Discord server by accident. I met a friend and then got dragged into all of this, and like, I don't know, it's been kind of the best year of my life, and I feel so comfortable being myself, and just like, I don't know, queer nerdy solidarity is just the best kind. At least for me it has been. Also so many creative people in this space, it's crazy. Like, yeah. So I feel like that's been like really good for my mental health and for me just being me.
100%. Mm-hmm.
And with queer youth, like a lot of their experiences are in the digital realm. So, and it's so much easier to create digital spaces than physical spaces, which require large amounts of capital, like leases, and are all tied up. And I know this because I work for a civil engineering firm, are all tied up in reactionary capitalism. Whereas in digital spaces, which are of course still tied up in that, but less so, because you can just like, Twitch has a lot of problems, but I just basically decided I was going to be gay and design stuff on Saturdays, and I did it. And that's all there is. Yeah. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So we can
also
go ahead. Queer panic. Oh God. Back. That's the theme today, everybody.
So, question: when the queer train leaves the queer station, it's clearly a locomotive. So when that happens, does the sound it makes sound like queer queer?
Knox. Oh,
Probably. That sounds right. That feels right.
That was aggressively wholesome.
yeah.
For that.
Aggressively wholesome.
Yep. I was gonna say, Matthew, your Saturday stream is like that has become a lifesaver for me because I live in the middle of nowhere where the closest queer space to me is an hour and 45 minutes away.
Oof.
So I don't have like a community of people here. I don't have any of that. And I know that like I feel like the other piece is that there's like a once a month like queer gathering at this place here that I don't attend because it's not really the kind of scene that I know that I would feel comfortable in. It's just like, and that's the thing. It's I feel like often, and here this is just a quick story time with Auntie M. So my one of my best friends, I was talking to her about this and she's like, no, you're totally valid in your experience and I support you and I love you. And I'm like, cool, awesome. And then we were talking about how I don't have any space here where I can go and like continue to explore sexuality, continue to explore gender, connect with other people, and just be in like a safe space. And she was like, okay, but the like one thing that you do have over there, you choose not to attend. So like how, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. I do choose not to attend it. And like, what, I'm supposed to just take whatever I can get? Like, no, I'm valid in my experience and I shouldn't have to like just go to the one thing that's here. I should be able to say, like, that's why I wish there were more like queer spaces for me, which is why that Saturday stream, like, I feel so safe and so validated and so I'm going to try really hard not to cry right now. I feel so safe and so validated in that space on Saturdays. And that's just an online community, once a week that happens. And that's so important that we have, even in digital spaces, that there are these communities that we build based on our needs and our rules and with our people. So I think that's really important to have those spaces, whether they are online or offline. But I think that digital spaces are important, whether they're a 5-minute baking video with your ace friends or an hour-long gaming stream on Saturdays where it's just wonderful.
Yeah, it really is. We haven't heard from Shelby in a while. Sorry to call you out.
Oh no! What do I bring up?
What would be the first thing or the thing you'd be most excited about to bake on your Ace Bakery show?
Oh gosh. I like the surprise cakes. Where you don't know what it's going to be like until you cut it open.
Oh,
sort of thing. Like all the different like rainbow levels or the different you can make the mini cupcakes that have the filling inside of them. But it's so funny that a couple years ago I was gonna help my friend open up her bakery. She opened it, but then her mom took over and it's a disaster. But we were because oh gosh, I haven't asked her now, but we are both in the queer space, that sort of envelopment. And so we were going to, make it super heavy like that. And we would have like theme nights and everything like that, or well, not nights because we closed at 7. But then her mom took over, and it sort of was like, oh, a disaster in the making.
Lame.
Yeah, her mom didn't have any business experience, any baking experience, but to be fair, she was footing the bill. So it's sort of like we can't really. You're the business owner in a way, but yeah.
Yikes.
I haven't deeply thought about baking in a while, though. It's really killed the vibe of baking.
Can I ask you another baking related question?
Yes.
What flavors would the Ace flag be if it were a cake? And each color was a flavor.
Well, if you're trying to think organically without using food coloring, the only things you have to make black are like charcoal and squid ink, and charcoal's not good if you take medication, and squid ink isn't like the best flavor. So it's like
I love squid ink. I love squid ink.
But in a cake with multiple flavors.
Yeah, and charcoal would just take all of your meds away from you.
Yeah, charcoal is just like, don't ingest it. Like there's this whole big charcoal movement of black ice cream and all of that fun stuff. But it's just like, if you take medication, that's not gonna be good for you. But well, you'd have to think about the warring flavors. And purple, yeah. Well, Sam was totally got it.
Yeah, there it is.
Actually works.
Right.
There you go.
We're workshopping your new YouTube
Yeah.
channel right now.
Pride brunch is over. Now it's Ace Bakery kickoff meeting.
We're green lighting.
Keeping notes. It's good.
Yeah.
That actually sounds really good.
It
does.
Like that sounds like a really good, what is that called? Like a London fog. That sounds
like yeah. Vanilla Earl Grey, and lavender. That's a good combo.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it like it's important to remember, like queer youth, like their experiences are overwhelmingly digital. And they're overwhelmingly like I only know this because I have young nieces and nephews, but like they're on kids' YouTube and then they're on Twitch. And when they watch Twitch, they're watching very popular Fortnite streamers who are deeply problematic.
Oh yeah.
Imagine if they had more available queer now again, algorithms, advertisement, capitalism, yada yada yada, but like there isn't enough queer content in all the different digital spaces. Like it's getting there, but like if you are a content creator, you gotta give the youths the opportunity to interact with that. I don't know. Since we're talking about creating queer spaces, again, it's really hard to open up a place with infrastructure and capital development. Really easy to post a 10-minute YouTube video. It's not that easy, but not a good one anyway.
But it's not as insurmountable as organizing an entire business.
Yeah. Getting a stormwater permit, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I think again, in the notion of spaces and content creation, I think that people think there are things out there that just aren't. I think we see like so much content, but what we don't see is what there isn't. Like we see 100 different channels up at any given time, but what we don't see is what there isn't there. We don't see, I can name probably off the top of my head the all trans and or non-binary channels, and then the all like people of color queer channels that are in the D&D space. And that's an industry that has grown and doubled every year and will continue to dramatically grow. So you gotta take the queer bull by the horns and just make your one little thing. That's my soapbox for the day. You gotta make you want to see queer spaces, you could at least start by making your own very, very small queer digital space. Or support the people who are doing it.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing, like supporting others. Kelly, you were gonna say something.
It's like if there's already organizations in and around your area and you're not crippled by the idea of social outings like me, it's cool to sort of like get involved in that, to sort of be that supporting to support somebody who's already doing something.
Kind of funny how we've come full circle, like that. Support is kind of what it comes down to, finding, groups. And I feel like you see a lot of that too, even in our community. Like I follow so many different people on Twitter, but they're all like retweeting each other, and it's just like really cool to see and very wholesome.
I am so grateful to have come across this community because I was in the online gaming community prior to this, and boy howdy, that's a nightmare. And it was
Yeah.
I never felt safe enough ever as a woman, as a queer woman. Like, I never felt safe enough. It didn't matter where I was, no matter how friendly the people were, there was always a level of, like, I don't know,
Holding your breath.
yeah, it's always like you were always right on the precipice of, like, is this going to turn into a really horrific situation?
Yeah, because in a lot of those spaces, it was always like, because I was in the same boat. It was always like I can't bring up this topic because I know it's going to go bad for me. Like, so you always had a part of yourself that you couldn't interact with in that space.
Yeah. Me and a really good lady friend were talking about this during Pride, I think, even, which is great. That was one thing that was really awesome about attending Pride with this friend, is it got her to think and talk about her relationship with who she's attracted to romantically and sexually. But anyways, oh shit, what was I gonna say? Oh no, my queer train left without me, and I had one foot in the door. Oh god, what was I gonna say? What were we talking about? It was related for sure.
Talking about, like, well, going back just to that idea of, like, feeling safe in spaces, gaming spaces, having the space to unpack things, feeling safe, feeling unsafe.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I know what I was gonna say. Yeah. So back on board. I think one part of that too is, I mean, yes, ton to say about feeling safe, but I think also there's that element of, like, having to come out every time, because it's always going to be like someone's always going to make a thing out of it, and that's just annoying after a while, because it's not a thing for me. Like, yes, sure, questions, continual life questions about identity, how I relate to gender, who I'm romantically, sexually attracted to, who I'm not, blah 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 blah, right? That's my shit to work through and figure out in my own time. But I just want other people to just be chill about it. And so it feels like that's also a barrier where it's like, okay, maybe this person has made some comments about, supporting the queer community, but they still seem kind of weird about it. So if I then have to come out to them, quote unquote, it's gonna end up being a thing like, oh, I didn't know, or I couldn't tell, or oh wow, and the reason I mentioned my lady friend is because this is something we were talking about, and this is actually that happened to me at my work. I work with a lot of religious people. Utah is a very religious, conservative state. So I work with a ton of religious people. One of my coworkers was talking about how he tries to be a good Christian man and not look at women in the gym, but it's really hard sometimes. I know that's a whole other thing. We're just going to gloss over that, okay? We're just going to sail. We're just going to sail on by that one, yeah, because that's a whole other thing. I work with a lot of very young men. I'm one of the oldest people in my office, and I'm not really old. Anyways, that should tell you something. We're just going to yeet right past that, Matthew, exactly. Do they have a yeet emoji now? Damn. Anyways.
We're on the train, and we're like, ooh.
Yeah, we're watching it just go by, like, oh, that's a mess. We're not getting off on that station, at that stop. But I stepped forward and I told him, because I was just, of course, I'm just like, what? But I stepped forward and I was like, I'm attracted to women, and I can tell you that, yes, I've certainly been talking to other women. They're very attractive. And maybe I feel a desire to look at their cleavage, but I just don't do it. I just don't. I just straight up don't do it. And I said that to him, and right after, because I just kept like rolling with the conversation, but right after I said, as someone who's also attracted to women, he was just like, oh, okay. And I was just like, just why though?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's not something you can just like bring up and be done with it. Like, someone's going to have something to say about it.
Yeah, and even like that is enough to just make it be like. And I think one of my coworkers assumed I was gay, but then I frequently talk about ex-boyfriends, so I kind of enjoy that because it's just like I know, just like rocking their worlds and blowing their minds. Yeah, they're like we don't know which one is she. We don't know. It's like it's a mystery.
And you're like, that's right. You're right. It is because it's none of your business.
Yep. But anyways, but yeah, that feels like a whole other thing where you're like, is this going to be a big production? Do I have to make this a production to even make comments? And then yeah, and then even like in the ace space, which like Matt is well similar to Matt. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for your lived experiences, obviously, but it's something where it's like, okay, well, I'm re-examining what this relationship looks like for me. Is also like a thing where like when you're in heavily sexualized situations, if I end up identifying as ace, it would be I don't, and my language isn't perfect here, so like the not like sex repulsed, I guess, version. So I can like, so yeah, anyways. But even like being in like heavily sexualized spaces, I'm just like, I'm bored. Can we go do something else? This is and how do you even deal with that? Because then that also has to become a production of like, are you uncomfortable? What's wrong? Did you experience sexual trauma as a child? It's like, whoa, woohoo! I want to push you off this train. You are uninvited. Like, holy shit.
I mean, it's people are out there really wilding. You know what I mean? Like, they really just the shit they say when you stray from the path. You just like look at them like, what did you say?
So I had a job in Montana. This is already starting off great. So, and for the job, I was working trail, so I was out in the back country, and I was like, I don't want to deal with this crazy mop on my head, so I shaved my head. And we were at this fair, so I was already like, that's kind of a, obviously if you have short hair, you're clearly a lesbian. So we were at the one of the fair that was happening, and my friends left me alone for like 2 seconds. It was 2 seconds, and I was just listening to some music, minding my own business. Some guy walked up to me and asked me, so like, are you a full-on lesbian? And I just kind of, I couldn't believe my ears, and I was just like, I'm sorry, what did you just ask me? And I had to walk away and go find my friends because I didn't know what to do with that at all. And it's just like, I I don't understand why it's one of those things where like, I don't know, like, can't I just be? Like,
No.
why does it have to be? I don't know. That's just I can't even like put it into words. Also, like full on lesbian. What does that even mean?
Right?
When did lesbianism become stages of being Super Saiyan? That's what I want to know.
My final
I gotta draw this. Super Saiyan lesbian. Okay.
Like, I can't. Nope. That's such a hard pass on that kind of question. So you like a full-on or like
I have to like put like he I think he looked like a metalhead, like the long hair, all black, had a guitar case with him. Like, I don't
sick,
yeah,
dude.
I didn't know.
Sick. Nice. That actually brings me to another point that we can talk about briefly and unpack. Is that outside of this community, if you are like, there are a tremendous number of folks who feel as though they are entitled to understanding or hearing about or knowing bits and pieces of A, our experiences, B, our gender, C, our sexualities, and that they feel like, well, in order for me to understand it, you have to tell me all this information and you can't be mad at me for asking.
Yeah, actually, we can't.
I don't think that's how that works. And my favorite response, I'm also an admin of an LGBTQ plus support group on Facebook. And I'm starting to get to the point where my favorite responses to them are, I don't know, perhaps you should try Google. Because I'm
It's that easy. Like with all this information you have at your fingertips, you really can't do your own reading. Like that's just lazy, and it's not on me to explain to you all this stuff. You literally have information quite literally at your fingertips. You carry a computer in your pocket.
That's right. We have a lot of questions in there about like, but what do all the letters mean? And I'm like, I don't know. I can't help. I just don't know either. There's no information.
I'm sorry. I'm subtly blind. I can't read.
Which leads to like erasure and any number of other things as well.
Mhm.
That's all of that. Like you don't exist if you can't explain yourself to me.
Right. The level of entitlement that privileged people feel to other people's experiences. And this, of course, goes outside of sexuality, but like just remaining on topic, like, like I will not be explicit here, but like I remember when I came out in a public space. I was asked across the room of a study hall of about 150 students if I was gay, very loudly. And I, for what I know. And I, for whatever reason, said yes. Yeah, that was how I came out, folks, in small town America. About basically like half of my graduating class was there, and the other half were juniors or whatever, sophomores. And the questions I endured in the following couple semesters in that massive, and I'm talking like explicit questions about things that I didn't even know. Like, do you like doing this with the guy? Do you like doing that with the guy? Do you like those are not like when did you know you not like
God.
cis heteros have no chill. They just dial it to a 150 million. Like it wasn't like when did you know you were gay? It was like, do you like doing this or this? Like the absolute very next day, and like everyone listening in, everyone. And I had a forum every day. I would have to field these questions.
That is so fucked.
I've gone on like a couple guys that I had gone on dates with. If it came up that I was asexual, like the things that they would ask is like, well, do you masturbate? Well, have you had sex before? Give me your history. And it's just like, what makes you think that that is anywhere near okay to ask somebody?
Like, especially on a first date.
It's just like
I've had that. I got to the point where anytime I was getting ready to go into the dating scene, I was just like, all right, I've got a laundry list of things to just say right off the bat, and if they don't approve of it, there you go, goodbye. Like,
yeah, no, it's like the first thing, I would hit people with when I did the dating thing, and now I'm just too old and gay to deal with it. So
too old and gay to deal with it is the biggest mood I have ever heard.
I think that's my actual sexuality. Like it's not quite it's like asexuality mixed with being really old and gay and tired most of the time.
Yes, it's just like I can't, the questions make me tired. If I like you and you like me, we'll go from there. Like I can't.
It feels like to me like those questions, especially around asexuality, is like an attempt to medicalize that experience. Okay, so you don't like having penetrative sex. Okay. Do you masturbate? Okay. You do or you don't? Okay. Well, where in the textbook am I going to put you now so I can understand you like an animal in a zoo, or a butterfly in a shadow box? And yeah, I don't know. That was just a rant.
No, absolutely. Because when you are the kind of person who's accepted the language of like the binary of heteronormative culture of capitalism, which is all about categories, you have to, when confronted with the person who's trying to live their truth, and you probably haven't even, and I could kind of speak to this I will speak to this, I should say, I will speak to this as a former total closet case in Christian County, is like, you have to put someone in a box who's living their truth if you're not even looking inward and asking those questions about yourself. That's how I feel anyway when confronted with those questions. I'm like, let me tell you something. When you ask me, do I like it this way or that way? I think what you're trying to figure out is if you like it this way or that way. Like they want to put you in that box because they have to understand you, because they haven't looked inward, because they've accepted the language of the dominant culture. And they got to put you in that box. Otherwise you're a threat to their own identity. That's how I feel anyway. That's how I felt growing up in a very conservative environment.
It does feel to me, one, definitely that it's a threat, that they're threatened by it, but also just feels like a way of like, since I'm threatened by it, this is something I need to control. And so I'm going to turn you into a checklist, which means I'm going to dehumanize you. I mean, I heard some really nasty comments at my current workplace. I've posted about them on Twitter. It ruined my whole day hearing that kind of shit. So it's like, yeah, 100%. I feel like when people ask you that, it's just an attempt to dehumanize you. It's not being asked with any sort of like genuine compassion or care, especially with the first question. Why would you? I sure as hell don't go up to like straight people and ask them, hey, what position, do you do it in? And do you use implements in your experiences? Do you have a book?
Right. Like, is your wife the top or are you more the bottom? Like,
do you switch?
Yeah.
Do you do it during the day? Do you brush your teeth first? Like, like how, it's mind blowing. I don't have anything more, more insightful to say than that.
I think like connected to that is sort of going back to that idea of, okay, this is like, these thoughts are formulating in my head as I'm talking right now in this moment. So I'll just give me a hot second here while I figure this train out. So like going back to that idea of those, like that kind of like queer capitalism and like how things are put into boxes, and the how we have this like these binary relationships and these binary definitions of just about everything. So boxes make sense. I am watching this train leave the station and I'm still on the platform. So we're gonna come back to this. I had something so important.
I love that the theme of this episode is trains, which is great because I love trains.
I have two boxes of model trains that I had when I was younger, like tracks that you click together and you can flip it on and the train will move.
That's awesome.
Okay, yeah, it's gone. It's gone. I apologize. I think we're doing great. It'll come back. I don't know. Maybe it won't. Maybe it might be gone.
Can I tell you a fun train story really quick?
Obviously.
Just as an aside to let people collect their thoughts.
Yeah.
So I've taken Amtrak quite a few times. I took Amtrak a couple years ago from Florida to Seattle to Portland, sorry, and then back and stuff. And one of the rides, it was the one from from Sacramento to Chicago. Grateful Dead were having their very last show ever in Chicago. And so all of the Deadheads were in the train. They drank out all the beer in the train. They drank out all the booze in the train. They put tie-dye cloths up in the window, which you're not supposed to do. No one does that. So they had the entire observation deck of the train outfitted with these tie-dye cloths in the window. They were all sitting there recording video, talking about their experiences as Deadheads. So in my head, I just imagine like the queer train looks like that, but it's all like the different like flag colors and shit in the window.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
You saying that helped me remember exactly what I wanted to talk about. So thank you, actually. So going back to that concept of like So like the running theme that we hear over and over again is be gay, do crimes, which comes directly from queer anarchist culture as a direct domino effect result of queer capitalism, that we were being shoved into boxes, and there was a community that said, and hard pass on that, no thank you. And that's, be gay, do crime. Like I love that phrase is like making a comeback in queer culture, because I think that is, again, goes back to queer history, which is so important. So I guess really at like the end of the day, pride is actually be gay, do crimes. Like that's really it. Be gay, do crime. That's pride. Truly. It actually is, because that's where it came from. It was illegal. Stonewall was an illegal club. They were not supposed to be there. And they said, you know what? F this. We're going to flip these tables over and barricade these doors. You're not taking this from us. And that's pride. Be gay, do crimes. Sorry, that was my rant for the day.
No, it's so good.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, even like, okay, in the US, queer folks have more protections now than they've had previously. But it's still such a freaking thing that at this point, even if it's not be gay, doing crimes, it's be gay, it's be radically gay to be radically rebellious. Because even here, a city, the next major city south of here, the queer community down there was not allowed to march in one of their parades because they said they were a political group, and there's no political groups allowed. So, and that's just happened last year. So, and even my workplace, which we had pride t-shirts, one person organized that, got marketing to create the designs for the company I work at, found out later that one of the people ops people said, well, what if we had a different, I don't want to conflate issues here, but what if we had a different kind of shirt that had to do with something else completely unrelated to queer rights and stuff? As if to say they had issue with the fact that these shirts had been made. So it wasn't illegal to make those shirts, and it's not illegal that it's not illegal to march in a parade or not to march in a parade, but there's still an element of controversy and rebelliousness around even having to exist, which is freaking wild. So yeah. That's it.
Can we also talk about how, like, be gay, do crimes? It's almost in so many places it is a crime to just exist. Like, what is it? The panic killing. Like, they're just starting to like overturn that, but like that is a thing you could say in court. Like, oh, I didn't know they were gay and I freaked out and acted and hurt somebody, and like that's a valid excuse. Like, it's, I don't know.
I mean, this show that we're having right now is illegal in some countries. Like, it's illegal in some countries. And quite frankly, if we were gathering in a physical space, even in this country, in the United States, our lives would be in danger.
Correct.
Straight up. Like, let's not mince words.
Mm-hmm.
It is still difficult. Like, we live a pretty privileged existence here in the United States of America, and that privilege was fought by queer Black women and trans women initially, and definitely all throughout history have been the vanguards of that whole order and done 90% of the legwork. And some of them were killed because of it. And even in this day, as privileged as our existence is, respective to other places and cultures, it's still like there's so much work to be done. And it's incredibly sad that we represent probably one of the best situations in a global perspective. We have many rivers to cross, as it were, from not only a national perspective but then a global one. It's just insane.
I completely agree, and I'm going to, if there are any thoughts on it, well, mostly just Shelby, we haven't heard from you in a while. Do you have any thoughts?
About
dynamic.
I've just been agreeing with everybody
Like,
solely
literally,
sitting in here.
Share your lovely voice. We want to hear your voice. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Have thoughts? Please. I don't want us all to occupy.
I am grateful to finally get involved with D&D, and I think that that's actually really helped solidify, or just tabletop games in general. I think that actually has helped solidify where I stand in my own validity, because when you're when you run a role-playing game and you make a character, you can explore things in a relatively safe space that you wouldn't just be able to do out and about. So like still with the questioning sort of gender aspects, if I want to explore that deeper, I can. I got distracted.
I saw that.
Yeah.
That was
that's the only thing I can think of. Is I'm glad that I can actually explore other aspects of myself in a way through a character that otherwise I wouldn't just be able to do in general.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about this last week too. So I will pose the same question that's absolutely connected to what you were just saying. And that's, how have tabletop role-playing games of any kind, have they, if they have, helped you sort of in your own journey, either of, it could just be identity in general, just the overarching concept of like identity. Have they provided a space for you to sort of do that and figure some things out, or maybe not?
If
Or if
anything,
there's
it's made me more confused. Well, because I can explore stuff now, and I'm like, oh, I like this. I am enjoying this aspect of myself. So, like, I will always, just in the recent, as with people asking me, preferred pronouns, I will just use my go-to she, her. But in the back of my mind, I'm always just like, well, I mean, I don't mind others, and I like the idea behind it. Like sometimes when I'm being complimented, I don't like pretty girl, don't like that. But for whatever reason, when people are just like pretty boy, I'm just like, yes, I'm okay with this. it's
Tell
so
me.
so it's like with D&D, I can sort of explore that like through a character, and I kind of have that sort of, oh, it's not me, it's the character, as like a sort of barrier, but I know I don't need to have a barrier as much anymore. So it's like I get to, go through. So I think maybe in the next year or so, I might, who knows what'll happen. Like as Matt had said, we're always changing. And so I think just with tabletop RPG games in general, with role-playing games in general, I think it's really going to sort of help me explore more about myself.
Yeah, I agree with that. Or sorry, not agree. Can't disagree with that. I relate to that, is what I meant to say. That experience a lot. I went through a really big breakup what's the month? Almost 2 years ago. And I've known I was bi for a long time, but it wasn't until I was out of that last long-term relationship, and I was like, I'm only gonna play. Technically, they're bi because I'm bi, and I can't imagine not playing a bi character. But I'm going to play very strongly gay women characters, or at least where they're going to have a lot of disinterest in people of a male gender. And really, it was just a way for me to sort of explore that side of my romantic sexual experience that I hadn't. And what also ended up happening is that I also started to explore gender identity through that, because there were teenage Knox was really into those explorations, but I left them behind as like teenage immaturities and follies and things like that. So when I started playing role-playing game characters, I was like, this character is going to be like hard femme. Okay, this character is going to be soft butch, maybe, like just skirting. Okay, this character is hardcore butch. This is a butch ass bitch. And like it just progressively got more and more and more. And one of the last characters I played, it was a Ryutama game, didn't get to finish out her arc. But she was definitely like looked butch, but I gave her all traditionally feminine colors because that for me is sort of where I ride that line. And a character I played that I have a very complicated relationship with is one that I played in Dragon Heist, and they were shit. What's the elf race from the Feywild?
Eladrin?
Yes, they were an Eladrin, but a blessed Eladrin. Which that race has a lot of like, I didn't realize it when I rolled them up. I didn't see all the discourse around that until after the fact, which further complicated my relationship with them. But I played that character through all their different seasons and gender presentations, and I found that playing their arrogant and more aggressive male version was really satisfying, or presentation, I should say. And in that relationship, they actually were in love with a trans drow, which I'm not going to spoil names. I almost said the name. I can't because we have some people playing the Dragon Heist in this very stream and chat right now. So Dan, don't say anything. Dan played that character. Yeah, Dan was my DM. Anyways, so like there was just a lot of like very interesting stuff happening in that game, and that allowed me to not like, it wasn't like deep explorations, but just sort of like skim the surface of like what that felt like. And that has really, much to what Shelby's point, that has really like caused me to bring it to cause certain things to come into question of like, what are the pronouns I'm satisfied with? How do I present? And what does that mean? And what does it need to mean? And what makes sense for me? And what's the language I want to use around that to help me understand it, but also to help other people honor the way that I want to be as a person. So yeah, I love role-playing games for the ability that it has given me to step into those experiences in a really safe, accessible way that I can back out at any moment. Because it's imagination, I'm not committing an entire lived experience to it. You know, I don't have to go back and say, hey guys, sorry, I'm actually not XYZ, which is okay to do, but it helps take some of that emotional load off of it to be able to play it out first.
I absolutely agree with that. I feel that within this community, I found a really safe area to kind of explore these different things. And my therapist actually pointed out to me, she's like, all of your characters are super feminine. You really appreciate the female body. And I was like, all right, get called out today. I didn't sign up for that at all. But also, like, even when I do, I've kind of feel really comfortable with they pronouns, and like a lot of the male characters I do play are more androgynous and more more feminine, because I feel like I present really femme. Um and so like a lot of my characters also do, and but they're still like more fluid, and it's kind of been cool to explore that, especially when you're exploring it with friends. So
I sorry, I'm being I'm muting myself and not talking a lot because I am the mask male figure in this space, and I don't want to be like, I never shut up.
No,
So
we want to hear. I want to make sure that everybody has
Yeah.
space here, and I feel like that we've been doing that. So please,
Yeah.
your experience is valid too.
Right. So yeah, tabletop gaming, especially here recently, especially like, oh God, it's been such a transition from the way we used to play to the way I play now. like especially in this past year streaming, using it like performing like in a show helps me be bold and helps me go there in a way that I've never done at home games. But even for years, but like even how can I say this? I finally got on the train and left it. I was so good today, and now woo, because it's woo, all right.
It's contagious.
It is.
Queer.
Y'all got me on the platform. Okay. So I will. So I mostly play male characters, and I mostly play like gay male characters or bisexual, or which is a whole nother. All right, and then yeah. So
I would like the audience to know that this train operates on QST, which is Queer Standard Time, and not predictable. Comes and goes.
Actually,
The little at the top, it'll say arriving in 12 minutes, but like it shows up right now and you're not ready to get on, and then it leaves.
see, Cole, that's actually where you're wrong, and it's why we're having so many problems. We're actually on Queer Daylight Time.
there it is.
And
there
you
it
forgot to switch over. Common queer mistake in the queer time zone.
QDT, not QST.
Yeah, that's the problem there. We're a whole fucking hour late is the issue.
I got
right.
so excited.
You're so right.
It's okay, common mistake.
Oh my god.
I have nothing.
The reality is that we are actually existing in a place where queer time means time doesn't exist, which is why
Correct.
we are simultaneously here and not here and late and arriving on time. So
Yep.
it's a different dimension, y'all. We're doing really great.
The Q in quantum stands for queer.
That's right.
That's right.
And we ascend from the mortal coil. Off we go.
Hey.
So okay, I think I can do this.
Okay.
So tabletop spaces and D&D have given me a space to explore absolutely my sexuality, especially I go through this very difficult time of being a divorced disaster gay man. But so I'll be specific, I'll be discreet. Like in Dragon Heisters, I play a character, Johnny, the magical sex worker. And he is an amalgamation of lived experiences of my own and my friends. But one of the things that helps me with my own experiences as like a privileged individual is I get to not only explore my sexuality and identity, but I get to process the traumas that made my identity that are wrapped in there. Like, so Johnny is very much about like my experiences with losing a lot of people that were very close to me and a lot of cancer in my community and death and dying and all that, which is super, super helpful because my romantic life is absolutely shaped by my other non-romantic experiences and the loss of so many of my friends through disease and death and violence. So the D&D allows me to revisit that without having to relive it, which is, and only relive it insofar as a space to where like I can process it, see other people's perspectives, understand it more. And then at the same time, Johnny gets to be bisexual and I don't have to be. as I navigate my waters. So it's just the tabletop RPGs, when you're in a space with friends where you can commit to that kind of thing and explore those themes and use safety tools, slowly but surely figure it out, for me, has been very, very healing and has been a way to revisit things that I haven't talked about in years. But I can do it through fantasy and imagination, and that's safe.
My my counselor actually said that that's like some of the techniques that they use. I can't remember which. There's so many different types of therapy. But like that is one of the things that they use. And when I talk about this stuff, she's like, this is like such a healthy way to explore yourself, to, like you said, process everything in a healthy way in a supportive group. And yeah, I only wish that I had, gotten into tabletop games sooner, because I've only been playing for a year now. maybe, can't remember. Yeah, about a year. And manhole boy howdy, it would have been useful in college. Because yeah, that was not a good time.
Yeah.
So
And it's the way you choose to play these games, because I've been playing for 17 years and I haven't used them in this way, in this level of commitment and emotional pull. I've been doing that for just 1 year. So it's also how
yeah.
you choose to play these games.
Yeah, same here. I didn't start leaning into all that until I started playing streamed games because of how performative they can end up being. And it just, I don't know, something about it feels like it opens up a door. I think also because everyone else that you're playing with is on the same train. To keep going back to our train. It's on the same
Listening.
train. Yeah, it's on the same train as you. You know, you're all there for the performative aspect. Not all channels are like that, obviously, but I feel like the ones where we all sort of orbit around each other are playing into that, and knowing that you, I mean, much in the same way as acting, acting, knowing that you have scene partners and stuff, and that they're there for you, totally changes how you do that. So I haven't been playing role playing games for very long, but I've only been playing them in this way very recently for about the last year and a half. And yeah, it freaking the way how quickly those changes happen. It's like going down a slide. It's like once you start playing streams like this, you're sliding down. Ah!
It's the slide kid meme where you're like, you don't realize how steep it is. Like you're like, ah!
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
kind of so sudden. I feel like it's almost something you fall into, because like I got into I was working a job where I was painting houses all day. I needed a podcast to listen to because, oh my God, I was so bored. I was going to stick the paintbrush through my eyeball if I didn't find something. So, found Critical Role, really liked the game, wanted to play for myself. Next thing I know, you're sitting on the water slide. You're like, do I really want to do this? And some asshole comes up behind you and says, off you go, bitch. And down the slide you go.
Down you go. And that's it.
Yeah, it's a
That's
drop
it.
slide. It's a drop slide is what it is. It just
Yeah, kind of.
yeah.
I feel like that's how I've made most of my friends in the community.
It's so great.
Kyle, thank you. Holy moly. That's so sweet.
Yeah, that's super nice.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
Yeah, just really quickly, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Nat. Thank you, Cam, for all of the bits. I hope that I didn't miss someone else. I might have. I haven't been paying super close attention to chat, and I'm sorry.
Well, our Alexis did a great job at setting up the Streamlabs stuff. So anytime that anyone donated bits, it did show up. Their bits went straight into the tea to be poured into the teacup that is Emma for future streams.
I think also like that, I think that going back to like what we were just talking about is that I think like one of my favorite things, and I will say this over and over and over again, I think that the importance of like the fantasy genre, and that includes tabletop role-playing games and RPGs, is that it allows you to explore the human experience in safe environments, and it allows you to sort of process whether it's grief, sorrow, sexuality, gender, joy, doesn't matter, trauma. It allows you to explore, unpack, figure out stuff in safe environments. So it's happening, and it's kind of happening to you, but also you can disassociate and disconnect from it anytime you want or need to. And you can also you can like really connect with it if you need to as well. You can do both. You can really connect with it, or you can really dissociate with it and figure out what works and what doesn't, and who you are and who you're not. And I think that that's really key. We asked this last week, so I'm going to ask this one more time. I know we're approaching our 2-hour mark, and then we can sort of wrap this up if we want to. But is there, and I know that Matthew was just sort of touching on this about Johnny, but is there a specific character that you have created and played as that has specifically helped you sort of work through some aspect perhaps of your gender, perhaps of your sexuality, perhaps of somewhere in between the two of them, but somewhere on one of those spectrums that has, oh, Tim, thank you. Um, anything along those lines. We asked this last week, and I thought it was really interesting to hear what everybody had to say.
Okay, I'm gonna answer. I'm jumping.
Jump on the train before it leaves.
Yep. This is a hard question for me because I feel like all of my characters have done that, and it's really been an intentional choice. Like playing a blessed Eladrin was very intentional. All the complications around that race and character aside. But I think the one that was sort of like a turning point for me, that was like me really dipping my toe into the waters, was I played in a game of Fate. It was a hacked game with another member of the community named Jolie. He's great. And DC was in that game. A lot of you guys may know DC from the community. They are a formidable player. Woo! And some other folks from the community. But I played a female knight that was basically Sailor Uranus. Effectively, she had short blonde hair, super androgynous. She had a friend that she had known forever that she was in love with. Her friend was in love with her. But because they were knights, all the knights had to take a vow of chastity to the person they were serving. So she was literally like committed to her work. And so you had all these like romantic moments of tension with this character and her character in her life. For those of you that have played Fate, like everything is very scene driven. So everything in that game was intense as hell. And the moments where I would be role playing out with this unrequited love of hers, and they both loved each other and wanted to be with each other, but couldn't. Like my heart would race. I could just be pounding. I would just be so nervous. And that was the first time I'd ever done any sort of romance at all in a role playing game, and certainly anything that was exploring my own sexuality. And that I think was sort of like my first character, like my first sort of like turning point as far as like the kind of characters I role played in the relationships that I desired to have in those role playing games.
Was that streamed or not? Sorry.
It was streamed.
Is this on YouTube somewhere?
I don't know if it's on YouTube. I'll have to check. If not, then the games are lost because the VODs would have long expired. But yeah, that game was fun as hell.
Holy hell.
This is such a hard question because like most of my characters, they all have like, I lean into like one aspect of myself that I really like push really hard. I think the common theme in my characters is me processing. It kind of helps with my mental health. I struggle with depression and anxiety. So I have some really goth, sad, angsty characters. And then the flip side is that I have like these really bubbly, like childish characters. And for me, that kind of is cathartic for me because I wasn't always that super bubbly person. And now I can be. And um, I think the one character I super resonate is my little goblin artificer, who I tweet about on Twitter all the time because Muglov Marnig is kind of the best. So she's my go-to one-shot character. She's super fun, and I get like a little emotional. It's fine. She didn't have the easiest childhood, but she found a family who loves her so much, and she's curious in her um enthusiasm for life and figuring out things and putting things together in puzzles. And like, I don't know, that's something I really resonate with because I had to find myself again. I found people who love me for me, and it didn't matter, you know, who I was, what I was. Like, it was just they loved me and that was it. And yeah, she's my favorite.
Yay. I love that.
I will just echo that Johnny in Dragon Heisters is been a really big thing for me. I will also though mention that like a lot of the characters I play in the incubated games, like both on Dice Prayer and now on Variant Roles and Urban Shadows, like Peter. Oh boy, howdy. He's shitty. But he's a lot of aspects of me turned into a darker light. His politics are actually not dissimilar to mine, but mine are. It's me playing a very fine game of political action and like the kind of two coins of it. But then his romantic background and his love life and his feelings of being a specter and having a husband that he wasn't very good to. Woo, boy, howdy. So as much as Johnny is one side of my life, all the characters I bring to the table are aspects of my life. I play them in a very shitty version. Like I kind of pull into my past in the ways I used to be to up the drama, because who doesn't love, adversity and tragedy? But when it comes to, we can explore the darker parts of our lives in tabletop gaming in a healthy way using safety tools, and we can be like, these are the parts of me that aren't as pleasant. Have fun, because they make for good television. So, and that's why Johnny's kind of shitty too, because, well, we all got shitty parts of ourselves or former parts of ourselves. That's
and that doesn't make you a bad person. You're just human.
Exactly. So, yeah, as strange and alien and as opposite as Peter might seem from me, like, and as much as it's taken people aback, there are parts of him that I'm just like, well, here we are.
This isn't entirely far off.
Yeah. So
my one character is a sad, awkward gay boy, and that's a mood sometimes. He does his best, he tries to help, but sometimes he just makes it worse. Title of my autobiography. Tried to help, made it worse.
There it is. Shelby, what about you?
I've got to sit long on thinking about this. There's one of my favorite characters that I've made. I've always, I feel like I'm not allowed to explore him as much. He's my human wizard of necromancy, school of necromancy, and I went in specifically with the idea that he was a trans man too, because it was something I have always been like, do I want to go through something like a process like that? How much do I want to explore my own self? And it's like I almost feel like I'm not allowed to, since I haven't that's not a thing that I'm currently deeply thinking about myself. But it's still like he's my favorite to go to. But just because it's something like, do I want to go through, do I want to actually not commit seems like a big word. It's just like, it's something like, is this something that because I've always been thinking about it. And I'm glad, now that I'm older, that I can be like, oh, you can be gender fluid. That is a thing that it's got a name to it, and it's got a plenty of people. You can be non-binary, all of that stuff. So exploring with my sweet boy Ezra has been nice. I do put in a lot of myself for some of my characters, but I've noticed just recently with all the characters that I play, I always try and make them like the sweetest thing possible. Just like they wouldn't hurt anybody, but they might not know. Like as far as Ezra goes, he thinks he's doing great, but he's also bringing dead bodies back to life, and that's not a good thing. But there's like another character that I explore a lot, And it's mostly because I sort of wanted to take it back. Is there's always that one, they're the female character and they want to have sex with everybody and that sort of thing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be that person. So I have a tiefling cleric who is very much like, I literally saved the party from a TPK because I got it on with the demon. So it's like I've like fully invested in it, and so that's my character right now because we're doing, what is it? Out of the Abyss. So right now we're getting ready to go fight the Demogorgon, and I just picked up a random dwarf man, and he is now my man of the week, so to speak. But like I use that experience as like a, because I used to be, as far as asexual goes, I used to be as far as like, oh, that's just wrong and gross. And now like I'm just like, I can talk about this, no problem. I have been, one of the things I used to like whenever I'd like start talking to people about asexuality is like, and they get this whole like idea of like, oh, so they don't do anything with sex, they don't know anything about sex, completely innocent. And I was like, you know what though, I have a membership for a private BDSM club, so it's just like I don't do anything, I never did anything there, but you just sit there and it's actually, it was like a really inviting place. But um it's I think the funniest part about that is like people already have this idea of, if you're asexual, how, what that means, what you're comfortable with talking about, what you aren't comfortable with talking about, and obviously everybody is different, so you can't speak for everybody. But I think that is a big like idea. So when some of my characters, I make them very promiscuous, specifically to just be like, I know what I'm about, but also I don't get sex jokes, so a lot of sex like innuendos goes right over my head. So it's hard when my character should know these innuendos, and me, I'm just like, oh, you're talking about a dick. Okay. Like it happens so often nowadays. I'm just like, I've got like a cheat sheet of like, okay, that's a phallic reference. All right. Uh-huh. But yeah.
I
Oh my
love
god, that's
that
amazing.
so much. I can't express how
That is
much I
so
love
valid.
Perfect. I want to run a game where Ezra's in it now. Like
I love him so much. He's in Curse of Strahd right now, and it's like it's sort of,
No.
it's sort of postponed where it's like up on towards the end, I think, but it's been a couple of weeks since we've really gotten into it. But that game has not been very as RP heavy as I would like for Ezra, because I've got a whole spell book where his mom taught him disguise self when he was young, specifically, and now that he's older, he never has it prepared because he's like, I don't need to do it anymore, I don't need to prepare this spell. And so it's like I've got a whole thing for my sweet boy, and I'm just like, please let me play him more, he's fun.
That's mood.
Yeah.
Love that. That's so sweet. Yeah, I think that like similar to what everybody has said, I feel like for those who are at least familiar with some of the characters that I've made, I am actually the spectrum of like Trixie all the way over to Mixed Magpie. Like I am both Trixie, who is this my sweet cinnamon bun, adorable, lovely little gnome cleric who just is flowers and light and magic, and Mixed Magpie, who is trauma and control and uh this, there's so many things that she is. And I think that like similar to similar yeah, she is the worst, Matthew, she's the worst. But like similar to you and like Peter, Mixed Magpie is like an amalgamation of like experiences and like my experiences and my trauma and like my own, I mean, I obviously it's hyperbolic and like I don't have the family issues that she has, but everything else that comes with her, that's not totally far off from sometimes how I am inside. So I think that it helps you sort of figure out and process and revisit. I think revisit is like a great word for it. Revisit bits and pieces of your own self and figuring that out. And I think that and I also know that like all of the characters that I've created, NPCs included, none of them are straight. Every single, like I don't think I would know how to play a straight character either. I just don't think I could do it. I have no idea how to do that. I don't know what it's like. I just don't know. I have no idea. I would be terrible at it.
So true. So true.
But
So true.
I don't know how.
There was a one shot that we did, and this is the only hetero couple that I have in my inventory because the characters just had really, really great chemistry. And even then, like, my character is Demi. Like, she's still not heterosexual, more like pan romantic.
Like you start them as straight, and then it's like click. I have a thing that I've done in Ghost of the Machine where there are a couple archetypical straight couples, and most of them are villains.
Oops.
It wasn't entirely unintentional, sorry. But yeah, that's a problem.
I feel that. I feel that so much. Like, I have my fun habit in games is that I romance all of my friends. Like, I have like 3 characters where into their backstory it is built. Like, these characters are together. I'm working on, I think there's like 1 person I haven't romanced, and they're next. They don't know it yet, but I'm coming for them.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Sorry,
That's
sorry.
such a mood. That's such a mood.
I had to remember what it was like to be 10 years old to play straight character.
Right.
I don't even know what that means. I don't. I'm too gay to function.
I can think of like one straight NPC that's been featured in the Ghost of the Machine in a heavily manner. I think, and because like I remember like even at one point someone was like, you know, this NPC is kind of queer and sassy, and there was like a pause. I forget what episode this was, and everyone goes, all of the NPCs are gay, queer, and sassy. Like, this
Get called out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's just an experience I don't know anything about.
Nope. Mm-mm.
So we've reached past our there's a question. Have you learned an amount of empathy, etc., through playing a character or with a character who has a different experience than your own? Ooh.
Kind of. I would say yes. But I when I even came up with the character Ezra, I was like, I need to it seems weird to say research it, but because I have similar experiences to him when I was, questioning things, but I still was like, I wouldn't feel right to immediately be like, this is who he is and how everything has affected him without at least looking at how that has affected somebody else who actually is a trans man and going through the process. So I definitely feel a lot more like, depending on what I've cooked up for my poor characters' backstories, I feel like a lot more of like, I don't want it to just be like a dramatic backstory. I want it to be something like, okay, this is, I can learn from this, and I can learn what not to do about it. So I would say yes. I have garnered more empathy towards a character, or towards a maybe what somebody is going through, even though it's a complicated subject.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's super complicated.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think I've had a character that's increased my empathy about a different experience than my own. I've intentionally stayed away from character types that are so different from my own lived experience. Intentionally, not just out of respect, I guess. Because I don't want to disrespect someone else's lived experience is where that comes from. I like that to not be a roadblock at some point, but I'm not there yet.
I was going to say, I think I'm in the same boat.
Me too. Yeah, I don't know. Like empathy, the whole thing. That's a whole thing. But like, I would say that's great if that's been an experience for someone. I know that especially for people who maybe live in a more normative lifestyle, when they have to like romance or do things like that, it helps them grow and understand and that's based on other people's experiences, their own words, you know. But for me, I don't think I could speak to that in a big way because most of my experiences have just been using tabletop RPGs to, I would say, get more empathy for myself. Be kinder to myself and my own choices. Lordy, lordy, I rely on other tools to gain empathy by listening to other people's experiences. I'm not sure a character created in your own head that is undoubtedly from your own experiences can give you. I don't know how good of a tool that is for empathy, but I think it's great if people have. I think it's great if people have been led to a kinder, gentler world through tabletop RPGs.
I think it's a little outside the question, but what you said, like more empathy towards yourself. And I feel like so many people struggle with that. It's, we're always the hardest on ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. And the way that your experiences, the way you handled them at the time, like that's okay. Just keep striving to do better. And, like it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I like what Nat said. We said, "What about with another character?" And I would say, yeah. So I would say, like, by playing more myself with someone who's playing more of themselves, that's given me a better understanding of my friends, without naming names because I don't want to speak to their experiences. But it just like when we're getting into the nitty gritty of it all, I'm like, oh, I'm seeing this person's part of their life that's not so pretty. I'm seeing this aspect of their life that's like, this is part of this person that I love and adore. And well, that's okay because they're seeing this part of me. It's not great. It's not great. But we're coming together every week and loving each other despite of it. So I think I like the way of it being about other characters. I do think that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, like as soon as you said that, Matthew, my immediate thought was I look at Dragon Heisters in my head and I was like, here it is.
Yeah.
And once a week, we get together and we hang out with the worst parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
And we make it through.
Yeah. And that party
That sounds like
is learning just as we learn. Oh, it's my favorite thing, but it's rough.
It is
we're
rough.
we're so shitty.
We are truly horrific characters. Like we are the worst.
They are shitty.
We are shitty. We are super shitty.
In the best way. But yeah.
Yeah. Like I had this. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, because I was like, I had this, like, just to give you an example, like I had this big moment where Johnny's like laying his soul bare. He's like talking about all that he's lost and all that he loved and how he doesn't want it all to happen again. And then at the end of it, I pull back and I'm like, okay, just so you all know, I have to roll deception for this. What a fucking thing to do. What is wrong with me?
If you didn't see it, y'all, I mean, he took his heart and he ripped it out of his chest, held it in front of us, and wept as he bared his soul. And at the very end of it, through these damn tears, Matthew's like, I have to roll deception. I thought I was gonna. I almost just flipped my whole table over. If it was not screwed into the wall, I would have done that because.
Oh my God!
It was a moment.
The look on Alexis's face when it happens, like if we were in person and she had a knife, I would have been a goner.
It was. I got no words after that. It was a hell of an episode. It was a time.
But that interaction teaches me about myself and people's responses and our shittiness in that show, where we use the lesser parts of ourselves to interact and try to grow, has taught me empathy. It's taught me empathy towards other people's experiences. And that no matter how idyllic and perfect you think someone's life is, they've been through some stuff too.
Yeah, one of the things I was just talking about the other day with a coworker, when we were talking about empathy, was that we don't often take time to think about what someone else may be carrying with them on a day-to-day basis. And I know that like this is sort of getting off topic, but I know that like a coworker of mine years ago put together an activity for our students, for our older students, like our 8th graders, 7th and 8th graders, where we got these jugs of water, and on each jug we would write down something that people might be carrying with them, like body image issues, trauma, neurodiversion, divorce, chronic illness, chronic pain. And we laid them all out there, and we got climbing rope, and one by one each student would have to go up and pick the jugs that are that they carry with them every day. They had to string them together and attempt to lift them, and inevitably they cannot lift them by themselves. And the other students always inevitably would jump to like help them lift this up because they'd see them struggling. And the whole goal is for people to realize that you carry similar experiences even though your journeys may be different, and B, that people cannot carry these things alone. And I think sometimes role-playing games can provide that same experience where you learn what other people may be carrying with them, and how to sort of share in those burdens together, and how to provide support and compassion and empathy for one another, and to sort of be aware that you can find commonality in there, and also that your experiences will be very different, and that and in the end that supporting one another and finding that compassion for each other and for yourself, I think that's key as well, like what Matthew was saying, that you find empathy for yourself and forgiveness for yourself, which can be very hard with some experiences that people go through. Finding that forgiveness for yourself, being able to forgive others, but being able to forgive yourself is really important and really hard. And that's my story.
100%. Absolutely.
I'm really glad that those students have adults like you to, teach them that, because I know probably a lot of us didn't have the easiest time. So anything that helps the students of today, I think, is a great thing. And yeah, teenagers are, at least the ones that I was in class with, they're mean.
They're the
They
worst.
were nasty.
Yeah.
They are the worst. I'm sorry, that was really sweet of you to say, and that I thank you. That's very nice of you to say.
Can we get some hearts in the chat for Emma and all the work that all the amazing work that she does for with the youth of today?
That's really sweet of you. I appreciate that so much. Y'all, you don't do this.
And Emma's done a great job organizing Pride content and bringing us together to have these amazing and explorative conversations with each other, in addition to other content on our channel. So Emma, thank you. And thank you everyone that has come to participate and sort of put your super personal experiences out there with us today. I'm honestly so glad that this is not stuff I talk about frequently. So Emma, thank you for making this possible on our channel. And thank you all for being willing to show up and do this. And thanks to the whole damn chat for being so awesome and supportive and making this community the space that we need it to be.
Y'all are really sweet. Thank you.
Emma.
Someone else is going to need to talk just for a second.
So many beautiful people.
Yeah. You guys you're all amazing.
Okay.
What?
Sorry.
You're good. I was struggling. I was like, ask a question. What question do I ask? Shit. I don't know. I'm failing. I'm stalling.
The queer train. It laughed again.
Yeah. It's more like I can't get it to
go. Do we want to start our outros?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Thank you very much. That was really sweet. I really appreciate that. That's really kind. I love this community so much. So why don't we go ahead and take a moment and talk about, we can do our outros, talk about, oh yes, that's a great idea, Dan. Let's find a someone to raid first of all. So while we're doing our outros, we can seek that out. So why don't we go back around? We will go in like reverse order this time. Share any closing thoughts that you have. Remind us of who you are, where we can find you, and any, what are you doing? Where are you during the week in the online world if you are? And if you want to share that, what are projects that you're doing? All of those wonderful and great things. So that means we're going reverse. So cool.
Oh, me. Yes. Hello.
That's you.
Or goodbye. Goodbye. Hello. La 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 la. I don't know. So I'm mostly on Twitter these days. You can find me at Cole Moriel. I'm going to be in a couple one shots in the next couple months. I'm going to be over at Dad Bod D&D on the 26th, so you should totally tune in for that. And they're also really cool over there too. And I might be in Anders Crash Pandas one shot, so that's super exciting. And yeah, I'm just a artsy nerd hanging out, and come talk to me about nerd stuff sometime. I'm not good at outros. Woo!
No, that's perfect. I think, are we down over to Shelby now?
Okay. Hi. I'm Shelby. You can find me on mostly Twitch at the one silent 11. I really appreciate being here and having all these conversations. It was really great, and I'm like I've been on the verge of crying the whole time. So I'm like trying to be real good because I have work in an hour. So but I don't sometimes we stream the Curse of Strahd game on Thursdays, but it's been sort of wishy-washy, so I wouldn't say that's an immediate thing. But I do have like 2 or 3 set one-shots that I have one shot that I'm fully done with, and then I'm just gonna like wait till I have time and then bring people in, whoever wants to do a fun beach party one shot and has time. That's some of the things that I have going.
Wonderful. Matthew.
That's me. I am Matthew Foreman. I am at Matthew W. Foreman on Twitter. I am a D&D and tabletop content producer and designer. I am currently designing a Path of the Drag Barbarian. I always do this. Path of Drag Barbarian. I just left off the King Queen stuff, but you can think of it in terms of however you want. A Barbarian, Drag, Queen, King, Count subclass for D&D. I am doing it as a kind of giveaway. If I reach 1,000 I need 150 more followers, and I'll release it for free. But if I don't, I'll just release it under IO or DM's Guild or something. So go ahead and check out my Twitter and see if you can get some people to follow to get a terrific queer-themed subclass for D&D. I use he/him pronouns, which is something I forgot to mention at the top of the stream. And is that everything? Did I need to say anything else?
Do you want to say anything else?
No, that's it. Hi. Doing fine here. How are you? Bye.
And Nox.
Hi, I'm Nox. You can find me on the internet at Nox Noctua. Shit, do we have like a closing question? Or was it
just any closing thoughts you have?
Where are you gonna be during the week? Where can we find you?
I actually don't do a lot of streaming. My only regular, and that's primarily a work thing, but honestly, it's great. It means I can actually attend to my real life, not being in 100 streams. But I am here every Sunday, which is tomorrow, for Urban Shadows with Mr. Foreman here. Mr. Matthew plays the petulant Peter.
We're arch nemesis in that team, just so y'all know.
Just about, basically, yeah. I play Vampire Daphne, and Urban Shadows is an amazing game, and I'm living for it. I think we've only got a month and a half worth of game left. And they just raided a vampire's house. So as a vampire, I'm super invested to know who the hell that is and what that's about. But yeah, that's here tomorrow. Oh shit! What time is our game?
8 p.m. Eastern.
8 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
I can't remember because I have to do the time zone conversion every time. So I'm like, someone else tell me what it is in Eastern. So yeah, you can find me here doing that every Sunday. And then sometimes I'm playing in community games, but I kind of live on this channel nowadays. Yeah, that's it.
All right, which takes us over to me. So first, okay, I'm Emma. You can find me at MK Hansen on Twitter. And I do a lot of stuff, so follow me there. So I want to thank you all for being here. It was really lovely. I live for these kinds of streams. I super appreciate it. So a couple of things, reminder that all of the bits that you wonderful folks in chat gave today and all of the donations from all community streams this month are going toward Trans Lifeline, which again is a 501c3 organization that provides support, both tangible and sort of like mental, spiritual support for our trans siblings. So thank you very much for that. I want to thank Alexis for running tech this week and last week for Pride Brunch. That's awesome. And thank you to Knox and Alexis for this amazing overlay. What does that say? What? Oh, are they just hearts? Oh, y'all are cute. And thank you to Variant Roles for letting us do this kind of stream. It's amazing. So speaking of, just really quickly to cover some Variant Role stuff. So there are some community pride games and streams, but there's a lot of other really awesome stuff happening. I really hope I don't miss something, so please go ahead and yell out and chat if I do. They are still wrapping up Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I don't remember which days that happens on, but it is happening still. I think it's like Mondays, Tuesdays, and Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. There's another day in there. And Kyle is running some Dungeon World games as well, which are pretty awesome. On Mondays, there's the Ravnica stream at 8 p.m. Eastern, which was a disaster. People, we had a premiere last week. People are already in jail. And Tuesdays, we have our one of our Pride community streams. This Tuesday, Anders will be running a Queer Crash Pandas 7 p.m. Eastern. Definitely show up for that. It's going to be chaos and it's going to be wonderful. Thursdays, there's the Monty Cook Games mixtape. So they'll be rotating folks who are in there, which has been really wonderful. Saturdays, we've got this Pride Brunch. I think we've got 2 more slots of this. Tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern, I make my premiere as a live stream DM for Salt Marsh. Come on in. The water's queer. I'm not nervous at all. It's going to be great. No, I am. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be wonderful. And then immediately after that, 9 p.m. is Invisible Sun as the sun burns.
No game this weekend.
Just kidding. That will not be happening this evening. So you can just watch the Saltmarsh game instead. And then tomorrow, Sunday, Goth Brunch premieres. Tomorrow, normally it will be at noon, but tomorrow will be at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be dark and spoopy and wonderful. And then tomorrow night, as Knox said, Urban Shadows, 8 p.m. Eastern. Boy, howdy, I hope I didn't forget anything. And I'm looking. I don't think I forgot anything. I'm looking now. Nope. All right. I think that's it. Stop it, Matthew. No, it's not. Is it?
But no.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
What are you guys looking for?
I think
The
tomorrow,
Goth Brunch.
it's tomorrow. It's always 11. Oh, I'm thinking, I thought it was 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm thinking my time. You know what? I am a professional. I do know what time this is going to happen. I am really,
She's gay. She can't do math.
It's gay, and I can't do the time.
Oh my God, we've come full circle.
Come full circle. It is so Eastern for me, which is great because I thought I have a note, little sticky note here that says Sunday, Goth, 11 a.m. Just kidding. Wait. Okay, yeah. See, I told you it is 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, right?
Goth Brunch's schedule is 10 Mountain, which would be 10, 11, 12 noon Eastern. If it's wrong, we'll want to fix that. but show up here for Goth Brunch around that time.
Right. It's always noon Eastern, but tomorrow it is 11. It is 11 Eastern. But
Okay.
normally noon Eastern.
Okay.
You know what? Whatever. We'll figure this out later. Thanks so much.
Doing great. We're doing great.
Follow
Glad you could all be here for that moment. Thank you.
all Variant Roles on Twitter for the actual time.
That's right. Follow that. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. So thank you all for being here. We love you so much. This was wonderful. And I stick around for a second because we are going to raid. I believe I missed. Is it Gold Heart? Is that who we are raiding?
Old Heart Gaming, which has a wonderfully diverse cast and just do a really terrific job. They're lovely people.
Awesome.
So let's show them love. Yeah, they have a wonderfully diverse cast and they're really great.
Perfect. So let's stick around for a second to do that and support some fellow gamers. Thank you again for being here. And oh, okay. Someone's doing it. Okay. Dan's doing it. Great.
Yeah, anyone can. Yeah.
Cool. So thank you. This is great. Follow Variant Roles on Twitter. Support them on Patreon if you can. Donate to Trans Lifeline if you can. And we're good. I think that's it. Are we ready to go?
Yeah.
Bye.
Once we go to the wait screen. Yeah. Raid time. I don't know.